Welcome to A Meaningful Life, a podcast dedicated to helping you live a beautiful and deeply meaningful life. I'm Kelly Patterson Smith, and I believe when we live with intention and appreciation for the world, people, and circumstances that surround us, a life full of joy, peace, and purpose is possible. We only get one shot at this, and I don't know about you, but I want to reach my highest potential in this lifetime. I want to align with my true purpose and do everything I was created to do. Maybe you feel the same way. If so, I encourage you to open your heart and mind as we take a journey together to grow and discover what it takes to live a meaningful life. Okay, everybody, I'm so excited to introduce you to just a light in this world that goes by the name Whitney McDuff. Whitney is an entrepreneur, speaking coach, best-selling children's author, mother, wife, daughter, friend, you name it. And you guys, she is the epitome of someone living a meaningful life. Something she's known for, which I think is really cool, is extracting the extraordinary out of people and giving them the tools to share their story with confidence. Isn't that great? She shows up for everybody she cares about and adds value to the life of everyone she meets. If you've met Whitney, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So today you'll hear how she's bringing meaning to her own life and work, how she's navigating grief after the loss of her best friend and beloved mother, and some things you can do to live a better, more meaningful life. So grab a notebook and get ready because this interview is jam-packed with incredible takeaways that could change your life. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Take a listen. So Whitney, thank you so much for doing this today. I've just been following your work and I've just been so inspired by the way you bring so much meaning to everything you do as far as being a mother and being, an entrepreneur and a good friend. And so I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that on Instagram because not everyone shares such a positive message. So I just think that's so great.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. And folks, we are 3 minutes into the interview. I've already teared up.
Sorry.
That is so sweet. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. And I'm curious, I know what kind of we knew each other in college and you were always just the type of person who made everyone smile and you were just always so much fun. I'm just curious because everything you do seems to come from a place of purpose. Have you always been like that? Have you had some sort of revelation in your life? Did you just have really good role models? Like, where does this come from?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Yes, to always having really good role models in both family and friends. I, especially now that I have my own children, am realizing how essential my friend group was in creating things with meaning and walking in your purpose and not being afraid to be who you are and all of those things. But that really the origin of that definitely starts with my parents. Confidence was coached in us from a very young age. And I say coached because a huge misconception that people have about confidence is that you're either born with it or not. And that's such a mistake. Confidence is a learned skill and it just takes time and time again showing up for yourself. And so from a very young age, I learned how to do that. And it has really carried me through my life and has led me to the work I do now. A lot of the work that I do is providing people with the confidence and the tools to share their story. So it's definitely served a purpose there. But, I think part of it is I just don't know any other way to be. I'm not really interested in things that don't come from within, like that don't make me want to just jump out of bed for joy. And I know we all have those things day to day, like, nobody jumps out of the bed to do laundry. But as far as where and how you spend your life and who you spend your life with, I think it's critical to have meaning in those things. I mean, we have this precious life of ours and the world is so big and so small at the same time. And I really do believe that it is the small, like day-to-day interactions with people that change lives and ultimately change the world. Like every major change starts from something so tiny. And so just building upon those things day in and day out and gravitating towards things that you find meaning in. That's the whole point, is to leave a legacy that has meaning. And so I'm really driven personally and professionally to not only have that for myself, but to help create that for other people.
Speaking of legacy, your mother left quite a legacy,
goodness.
I would say. And I know this is a very emotional topic for you because I know how close you guys were. But can you tell us a little bit about the relationship you had with your mother and the influence she still has in your life? Because you lost her has it been 2 years yet? It wasn't that long
A
ago.
year in September. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so weird, especially with the pandemic. It feels like so long and not long at all at the same time. I think that's everything in life right now, right? Has it been a
Mhm.
week? Has it been 10 years? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mom is essentially responsible for almost anything creative within me. She was a writer, an artist, a musician, just an abundance of creativity. Literally everything she touched was better than how she found it.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize, I always knew she was a huge influence. You can't see me right now, guys, but my mom and I look very much alike. We both love the same things, but her ability to imagine things is now so incredibly apparent now that I have children. We absolutely love story time. We love reading. We love painting. I have a children's book that was inspired by her, a second one coming out now in her honor. But I didn't realize how important those moments growing up, just sitting down and taking the time with me to tell stories and listen and allow my creativity to thrive. It has influenced me through my entire life. And now that she's not with us anymore, it's becoming even more apparent, but it's in a really beautiful way. It doesn't make me sad. It makes me happy that now, like, my responsibility to carry on her legacy is what I do with my children and what they do with their children, or how I impact my friends because of the lessons that she taught me, or how I deal with clients because of how she taught me to relate to people. Just the power of creativity and empathy and gratitude. All of those things were instilled in me from her. And I feel like it's my duty now that she's gone to carry that on in a really meaningful way, and in a way that I know that she would be proud of.
And what would your advice be? Because we all have people in our lives that did not have that instilled in them at such a young age, and we're not gifted with someone in their life to teach them those things. How can someone who's maybe listening to this saying, you know what, I never had that. I really don't even know what Whitney's talking about, but they want to, and they want to have that sort of meaning and joy in their life. What would your advice be to someone like that?
So that's a really good question. One of the things that I have made a huge part of my life is finding mentors. One of my mentors just happened to be my mom. And I got lucky in that relationship, but seek those people out. If there's someone in your life that you feel like is living the kind of life that you want to live, I cannot encourage people strongly enough. Reach out to them. You would be shocked at how willing people are to share their mindset, their heart set, their tools for moving through life. People that are living a meaningful life and living a life with purpose, that's what they want to do. They want to give it away. And so please, if you feel like you want some direction in something, or just have this urge inside to start something new or create something, and you just don't know how to do it, please look around your friends, online, wherever, and find someone who is doing that and reach out, because who we surround ourselves with is so, so, so important for our mindset. It's something that those people want to give away. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of that in a great way and develop those relationships with the kind of people that you want to grow into.
It's amazing when you start putting yourself out there and letting people know that you want to learn and to grow and do these things, and you reach out to those people that are doing the things. It's amazing how people show up for you in that way. I mean, there are people that have helped me literally ask for nothing in return. They just want to help because they know someone helped them get to that spot. And then
Absolutely.
when you start getting momentum in your life, you're like, you want to help that person because someone helped you get there. And that's, I know you do a lot of that in your work. That's one of the reasons I created this podcast, because so many people have helped me get to this place of meaning in my life. I feel it's my duty now to be some sort of small resource in the world to help.
Absolutely. And the thing is that's so funny is we all share the same feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's such a revelation for people, I think, as they start putting themselves out there. It doesn't matter what level of personal or professional success you hit. We all feel fear when trying new things. We all are scared of rejection. We all feel those same things that get us caught up. So just being honest about it and going out there and saying like, hey, you're where I want to be. Can you just give me any sort of nugget? Oh my God, people are more than happy to do that because they're doing that with somebody else. It's a fundamental belief of mine that if you have knowledge or a skill set that can help someone get to a better place in their life, I think it is your obligation as a human being to share that. And so if we all just have that mentality, high tide rises all boats. So.
Exactly. I so agree with you on that. Could you imagine if we all just truly rooted for each other and supported each other, what we could all accomplish? One thing that I have come to realize at this point in my life now, there is enough for all of us to succeed and do the things. There's enough money, there's enough jobs, there's enough success. There's enough of everything for all of us to do the things that we want to do. The hard part's doing the hard work to do it.
Absolutely. And the thing that stems from is a scarcity mindset that we have, right? So when we're afraid that something's going to be taken from us, we're not thriving. Like that's a waste of time and energy to worry about what's going on in somebody else's lane. Like you do the best work that you can do. You help as many people that you can help. One of my favorite quotes is by Zig Ziglar. And he says, you can have anything you want in this life if you help enough people get what they want.
So true.
And I
love that.
absolutely love that because not only is he talking about comfort, but he's talking about fulfillment and really understanding your purpose in the world. So once you find that thing that really just sets your heart on fire, that you feel like you're meant to be here for, oh my God, go do it 1,000%. Like you will get back what you're giving out tenfold. And people that are living their purpose understand that. So they're no longer threatened by what would be considered competition because there is enough to go around. There's enough everything to go around. It's fine. Like everybody can get there. The thing that holds people up are really their own mental blocks. We're always in our own way. It's always us. And so surrounding ourselves with people who are cheerleaders and who have more knowledge than us. And I'm sure your guests have probably heard this, but it's so true. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to go somewhere where you're uncomfortable because that's where growth is. And once you understand that and seek out that discomfort, your whole life changes. Your whole life changes. And it's just amazing. And I really want to encourage everybody, even today, like just do one thing today that makes you uncomfortable. Have one conversation, pick up a book you've been meaning to read. I don't know, go for a walk, whatever it is. Just do one thing that's going to get you closer to where you want to go, but it has to make you uncomfortable because that's where the growth is.
100%. You push through that discomfort. You never know what's waiting for you on the other side. And sometimes it's a revelation. Sometimes it's a new idea. Sometimes it's a new inspiration of some sort to bring forth that thing that is within you that you've been burying because you're like scared to bring it out.
That little like fire to start my own company started several years ago, but it took me 2 years, Kelly, because I was afraid of what one person that I used to work with would think. 2 years.
And don't you look back on that now and are like, that's insane. What was I thinking?
I literally want to just wring my own neck sometimes. I'm like, where would this company be if I'd been going full throttle for 2 years? I was so scared of one person. And then I ran into them. And they were supportive as they could be. But it was my scarcity mindset. I had to get out of my own head. That was holding myself back for 2 years. And that was a huge learning lesson. Like that was a game changer for me because like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But now it's a lesson that you can use to teach other people and be like, don't do what I did. And I can relate to that a little bit in a different way. I was in TV news for several years, and 5 years before I left the business, I had that tug myself to do something else. And I didn't know what that something else was for me. I just knew I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing, but I ended up getting another job and I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep going for another couple years. And, I eventually got to a point where I got the kick in the pants that I needed to leave the job. And I did. I'm so glad. I still didn't have a plan. I'm still trying to figure it all out, but, when you have that thing inside of you telling you that you need to do something. And whether it's like, in my case, it was myself. I was scared to leave because I didn't know what else I was going to do. Like there was no clear path for me, even though I knew that's the thing I needed to do.
Right.
But even one person can hold you back from your higher purpose and God knows what in this world, like look
Yeah.
at all you're doing now. And I think it's so amazing that you're sharing your journey and took that leap. Do you feel like you're in your purpose and in a place of service right now? Like, do you feel all those things that you knew you were going to feel if you left?
Totally. And I will tell anybody who's listening to this that my company looks totally different than it did when it started. Totally different. What I would encourage anybody and what I wish I'd done more of in the beginning is things like what you're doing with your podcast. Start having the conversation. Talk to you. Like I was so afraid because I didn't know what it looked like 100 miles out. So I wouldn't even bring it up with people. It's like, oh, I'm thinking, it was like, no. I'll just do it on my own and it'll be fine. And the speed that I could have moved and pivoted if I had just opened up and made a call and been like, you know what? I'm kind of thinking this. I don't know. What do you think? Give me some feedback. The speed that I could have pivoted and grown would have been exponential. It's just having those conversations. You don't have to have it all figured out. And quite frankly, you're not going to. The companies and ideas and products that people have in their heads right now, they're going to change 100 times. That's just the nature of the beast. It's just having enough faith in yourself to know that you will figure it out. And if you can just go as far as you can see, you'll see further when you get there. It's just taking the step and not feeling the pressure of, oh my, I got to build a $100 million company in the next 2 weeks. I have to have the plan. Like have the vision for the impact that you want to make and the conversations with the people who have more knowledge than you, and everything will start to come together. And that's exactly what happened with my company. I was trying to do everything for everyone because I was unclear. I knew that I wanted to help, but there was not the clarity that I needed. And the more work that I did, I started gravitating like, oh, this feels really good. Like there were some calls that I would get off and I'd be drained, and slowly but surely, like that type of client, that type of work, I would move out of the business and start working with people and projects that like lit me on fire. I'm so enthusiastic because of like this energy. This is what I deal with all day. Just amazing people wanting to make people's lives better. Like, yes, I'm an enthusiastic person. Like I get to do this all day instead of doing something that's not aligned with who I am. So I end the day feeling drained and like I haven't contributed something to my own legacy. So ask the questions, have the conversations, be vulnerable. People are so willing to help. And we get afraid and caught up because of our pride. And we think we need to have it all figured out. You don't have it all figured out. And spoiler alert, neither do successful people. I work with people at the absolute top of their game, folks, and they don't have it all figured out. That's the only reason I have a job. No one has it figured out. So
something that I've really become attuned to lately, your body will let you know if you're on the right track. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, inside you have like this knowing, and you know if something feels right. And if it doesn't feel good, that's a signal to you that you need to pay attention to that.
Absolutely. I cannot encourage that strongly enough. And that's something I'm learning more and more about as I get older, just really listening to your intuition. There's so many things in the world that tell us not to trust it. But the reality is when we do, everything lines up. Everything. And so being confident enough to know that you know what's happening. You know, you're reacting to it all the time, but you know what's up.
Exactly.
And if you've got this little thing, whatever, your Jiminy Cricket, whatever you want to call it, just like chirping in your ear about something, listen, because it will keep showing up in different ways and challenge you to accept that role and go for it. You know, we're all put here for a purpose. So listen to your little Jiminy Cricket. It's my little Disney reference for the day.
That's right. You have a lot of Disney references and Hamilton references, I'm sure, but because we know that's Whitney's favorite, in case you weren't following her on Instagram right now. But yeah, I actually came across something recently and I referenced it in one of my podcasts on this topic, because when I started paying closer attention to my intuition, I got a little confused sometimes, because sometimes the messages were like, is this me? Is this anxious Kelly thinking about this? Or is this my intuition telling me something? Because, you know, I deal with some anxiety and worry about things I don't necessarily need to worry about. And I'm trying not to make decisions from that place anymore. So I came across this thing on Deepak Chopra's Facebook page, and the nutshell version of it is basically like, if your thought or whatever your action you want to take is coming from a place of fear and anxiety, and those things can make you feel like you need to make an impulsive decision. But if you take the same scenario, if it's coming from a place of peace and knowing, and you feel calm about it, then that is your intuition, and the other one is not. And that kind of helped me figure out when it was my intuitive thing I was thinking about or something my, as they call it in the monkey brain and think like a monk was thinking about. So that's something that really helped me.
Such a great book. Love.
And it's such a
Love
good
Jim
book.
Teddy. He's great. You shouldn't make decisions from fear. We get in our own head and we function from fear and we're very reactive. And that's what we need to get away from, right? Like working in flow and living in flow and being present. That's the other thing. I am working so hard to be present because worry is just, it's nonsense. We all do it all the time, but they're about things that are out of our control. It's things in the future that haven't happened yet. 99% of the stuff we worry about doesn't happen. Being present and getting grounded and understanding, okay, let's just do the next right thing. Not 100 steps, just do the next right thing and then the next one. You just listen to your body and listen to your heart. And I think people are so scared to step forward if they don't have like a crystal clear roadmap or a guarantee of quote what they call success. But the reality is every misstep I've made has been an incredible lesson and has come back and like paid in success in dividends. It's how you frame it, right? Like we're so afraid of screwing up or being rejected or, you know, someone disagreeing with us publicly. I can't tell you, Kelly, I have worked with so many people. It is the most frustrating thing in the world. These people have knowledge that could literally change people's lives. I mean, make them better, save their lives, and they will not share the information, whether it's on social media or up on a stage or wherever on a podcast. They won't do it because they're afraid of the one keyboard cowboy that may come in who's hanging out in his basement and just, you know, goes around trolling people online. They let that deter their entire life's purpose because they're scared of the one critic. And it's just gut wrenching to watch. And we work through all that, but it's so common how often we hold ourselves up because we're afraid of criticism. You've got to understand that your purpose is bigger than your fear. And it is certainly bigger than the naysayer. It's just showing up every day and you become more and more confident doing it when you show up, but you have to step into the arena.
And the more and more you face the keyboard cowboys, I love how you put that, but the more and more you face them, the more and more you realize like that's so insignificant and like you're really going to let this stranger on the internet. I know. I mean, in television, we dealt with that a lot. My skin got pretty thick. I got all kind of crazy feedback and emails from people, but it did help me. And the more and more it happened, the less and less offended I was. And I got to a point where it was actually humorous. It was kind of funny.
I mean, think about their life. How
it's sad.
Yeah. How void of meaning you have to be to take time out of your day to go comment on a stranger's social media post and try and publicly humiliate them. Like, how sad is your life?
Especially when you see people doing so much amazing work with what you do, Whitney. I can imagine this would be so frustrating for you when you see people with so much good to give the world and they're held up by something like that. That's really tough.
It is. And we work through it, but even having the conversation, because I can sense it coming on with some people sometimes. And I'm like, no, we're not.
I was going to say, what do you say to them? What is the thing that you can say to them that help them through that?
Well, we have that conversation about how pitiful that person is to make the comment, but it's really goes into talking about your meaning and your purpose and really putting it into the scope of what you're doing. That your whole life, your legacy, what you're leaving your friends, family, children, the internet, all this amazing information versus a blip in time of some jerk. Like, come on, put it in perspective and just really trying to get them to that place where they understand the meaning of their own work because they feel it from within and that's why they're driven to do it. But sometimes you need somebody from the outside to be like, no, this is meaningful. Like this is bigger than you and you are the vessel that helps make this happen. So get up there, get over your own, ego about the naysayer. This is bigger than you. Go do your thing. You got this, give them a little pat on the butt. You're up on stage.
Exactly. I love that. I read your bio. You said you help extract the extraordinary out of your clients. And I think that's such a cool thing. What would you say has been the biggest game changer for you for having the confidence to go out on your own and start this business and start doing all the amazing things you're doing? Like what was the one thing that was a game changer for you?
Well, there were kind of two. One was a mindset shift where I started to seek out being uncomfortable. I've always been a pretty confident person, but it was a switch in my mindset on, okay, where am I going? Who am I talking to? Like, I wanted to be uncomfortable going into those scenarios because it always forced me to up my game. And now I just kind of make that standard practice. I always, despite how cool, calm, and collected I may feel, I am constantly feeling like, oh boy, you are not ready for this. Okay, these people are way out of your league. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, I'm like, God, I'm glad I did that. Let's do it again. So seeking that out in my habits has been great. The other game changer, I started incorporating people in my life who had the same vision that I did. So once you figure out what you want to do and where you think your purpose is with other people, it becomes very hard to be around people that are so like that they just don't think outside their own little world. And so I really started trying to surround myself, like we were talking earlier, reaching out to people, finding mentors. Like I have an extraordinary circle of very purpose-driven women that are aligned, not with what I do, because we all are in different industries and all that, but are thinking the way that I'm thinking. What is my legacy that's going to happen? How many people can I positively impact instead of like sitting around, not loving your life, not really doing anything about it? Like, ooh, can't stand that. If you're not happy where you are, like, guess who can change that, folks? You can. So like those kind of people, I'm just not around them anymore. I don't have time for it. Like I want to be around people that push me to be the best version of myself. And I want to be that for other people. So one's the mental shift, getting uncomfortable and seeking that out. And then the second one is, who you're surrounding yourself with. And being around people, like I've been very fortunate. I've had the same best friends literally my entire life, but it's because we grow together. There's not an anchor at my feet. Like we're all in that. How can we be the best version of ourselves? And we push each other to do that.
And what would, if someone doesn't necessarily have that close group of friends that is growing like that together, what would your advice be to them? Like, how could they start? If they don't know a single person that is in this mindset, what would your advice be to them? How can they get surrounded by this group of people and try to start building their own network?
So some of the people in my network, like I did not know until the last 3 years. I started going to events that I knew were aligned with what I wanted to do and started reaching out to people that I just loved their energy. Like, those people that just walk into your room and you're like, God, yes, I want to be around that person. Those were the kind of, hey, let's go to lunch. Let's get to know each other a little better. Let me get inside your head. Like, how do you think? How do you live? What do you want to do to serve other people? Like, and that group over time has become incredibly close in my life and is really a force of nature for me because now I feel like I can be vulnerable, and this, it's a different thing. Like when you're an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. You're making every decision. You are everything to everyone. Like you are the company. And you're building this thing. So to be able to open up to other people that have that same experience, that have to make every decision, that have to do all the building, that have to make all the mistakes themselves, it's been an incredible bonding experience. So just seeking out those groups and getting on an intimate level with those people who are walking the same path that I am. Like what's working for you? What's not? Help me out here. What are you afraid of? We all have that same stuff going on. So if you are just starting from ground zero and you're like, oh my God, this thing, like there's this thing that I know I need to start, just show up somewhere where people are gathering that have that same mentality. You're not going to know anybody, but that's okay. You meet one person at a time. That's how it works. And whether it's in person, obviously we've got COVID going on right now. There's so many amazing groups online. I'm a member of an organization for women entrepreneurs called The Dames that has been an absolute game changer in my life and in my business. All those women are virtual. That's how I've met them all, and tremendous people. I talk to them all the time. So it's not about having all the knowledge. It's just stepping into the arena of people that are walking the same path or are on the path that you want to walk and just saying, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And starting there.
That is such wonderful advice. Yeah, you can find in this time of COVID where we can't really go out with a bunch of people, there are some great communities online. I did want to pivot back quickly because I do think you have some valuable advice to offer people here. Back to your mother and losing her. And we don't have to go obviously deep in that, but I am curious about how someone like you with your mindset dealt with grief and overcoming grief. And I know grief is so different for everybody and it pops up at strange times, but how have you navigated that? And what would your advice be to others who at some point in their life will find themselves dealing with the same thing?
Sure. Yeah. Grief is something that unfortunately everyone is going to experience. What it was so interesting for me when mom's passing happened, you don't understand grief until you go through it. And you think you understand grief and you watch other people grieve and you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's been a year, like, let's go. You put time frames on stuff and all these limiting beliefs we have about grief. And then when I went through it, I was like, oh, wow. I was not as supportive of people in my life as I could have been. It's just because we don't know, You're always moving through grief, and you're right. It pops up at random times. My best advice that I try to give through people who unfortunately have had to go through this after me is, one, get help. Like, I was in grief counseling within a week, I think, of mom's passing because I knew that it was bigger than what I could handle. And it was such a devastating loss. I just knew that I needed tools that I didn't have because I'd never been through it. And for that to be like my first loss was just a wallop. So because my mom was the person that I always went to, like, well, where are you now, mom? Like, I need your advice more than ever now that I'm actually grieving and you're the one I'm grieving about. So I immediately started grief counseling, which I think was fundamental in how I've processed this because it gave me real tools to deal with it and to understand that you have to deal with it. That's a huge thing that I see in people. They try to avoid grief. And it's like, oh boy, you're only making it worse. You're making it worse and it's going to manifest in all these unhealthy ways. And I recognize that now more than ever. But the other thing in my day-to-day is I try to carry on what I know she would have loved. And part of that happens naturally because so much of her is embedded in who I am as a person. But things like the book, things like building a reading wall in my children's rooms, like those are things that she can't physically be here anymore to experience with the kids, the reading, or, she'll never be at a book signing of mine. But to know that everything has like, yeah, mom, this is for you. I got this. I'm honoring you. This is for you. Every time I sit and read a book, every time I do a painting with my children, every time somebody opens up the Lollie tree, to me, that is how she lives on. And so if you are grieving a tremendous loss in your life, I really encourage you to sit down and think like, oh, what would Tom want to do? Like, would he want to have, an annual fundraiser in his honor where we, go have drinks and all the money goes to cancer research? I don't how can we make this legacy something amazing and fun and not sitting in a corner, not doing anything? Because that's not what the people who love us want. They want us to thrive. They want us to succeed. And I think it's our obligation to do that with them by our side. Like my mom is in my ear all the time. That relationship is not gone. It just looks different. And finding purpose in her life and carrying that out in what I do every day and how I help impact people, to me, is how our loved ones live on. And, I think what you guys are doing with the memory books is so amazing because life is about the little moments, right? It's not the big stuff. It's the little things. And that's what we miss when people are gone. And I love that you've created something where people can document that because to look back on that when they're gone is so beautiful and inspiring to carry those things on into another generation. I love it.
Well, thank you. And I so admire what you're doing as well. And can you tell people about the Lollie Tree, where they can find it and the next book that you're working on?
Sure. So the Lollie Tree is a children's book. It's about a little boy who's overcoming his fear of the dark. It's just a sweet little story. You can find that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. It's everywhere. The next book is called Where the Lollies Go. And that is a book that was inspired by, I wrote a poem for my mom's funeral we called our mom, Lollie. That was her grandmother name. So that's where the word Lollie comes from. But it's a story of what happens when people we love pass away and what that transformation looks like and how it shows up in our lives. And so that poem has been pulled out and turned into a book. It's coming out next month. So yeah, Where the Lollies Go. And then there's a book coming out next year that is a compilation of poems, think like Where the Sidewalk Ends, that same type of format. That's called The Gigglebert Tales, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that sounds fun.
A lighthearted little read. But yeah, Where the Lollies Go is coming out next month. And the Lolly Tree is available anywhere books are sold online.
Okay, real quick before I let you go, I have a couple of final questions. Like, I guess you would call this like a flash round. What is the one book that has changed your life?
My favorite book ever is The Giving Tree. I have always loved that book. I think it's such a beautiful story about love, and it's so simple. That's also for Mom. That was one of her favorite books too. So
love it. What would you say is your best piece of advice to the world?
Oh boy.
You just gave a lot of it in this podcast.
Be kind. Not super profound, but often the best advice is simple. So be kind.
I love it. And in your view, what does it mean for Whitney McDuff? What does it mean to live a meaningful life?
I think it means having the gift of waking up another day and making someone else's life better, which in turn makes yours amazing.
Well, thank you so much. Can you tell us all where to find you on all of your social platforms?
Sure. So I am Whitney McDuff, WhitneyMcDuff.com, Whitney McDuff on Facebook, Whitney McDuff on Instagram. Pretty easy to find. I think I'm the only Whitney McDuff around, but we'll see. If there's another one of you out there, show yourself.
That's right. You won't be disappointed by following Whitney on social media. She is so hilarious and fun and, entertaining, but also informative. You share a lot of stuff that you're learning along your journey. So I just think it's, I'm a big fan. So
I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of you. Always have been.
Isn't she the best? Just a huge, huge thank you to Whitney. I am so grateful to her for taking the time to share all of this wonderful knowledge with us. And I hope you heard something that will have a positive impact in your life. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please rate, review, and subscribe. Share it with someone you love. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I hope there was something you were able to take away from this podcast today to help you live a more meaningful life.